Thank you. Thank you for coming on, my man.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Just a little introduction. Who are you and what do you do?
So I'm George. I'm a personal trainer from Cheltenham. I work with people trying to get into insane shape. Like my goal is to get people from where they're at now to a physique which they never thought possible for themselves. Whether that's a fat loss journey, whether that's getting on bodybuilding stages, whether that's doing photo shoot transformations. My goal is to get people to achieve things they never thought possible for themselves, which I find crazy. Like I love that as a job, and it's sick that I've been able to get into that as a job. I've been training most of my life doing different things, like from bodybuilding to powerlifting to playing rugby and sports. And then I did content creation in the middle of all that and fell into this. And it's kind of all worked out when it was supposed to work out. It was a weird one, and it was a nice journey where everything just kind of lined up in the right place, and it was just follow that path, and it just kind of worked out.
So where did the passion start?
So the passion for training and stuff started at school. I used to play rugby growing up. I was never amazing at it, but I used to play rugby. But as part of our rugby training, we used to go in and train in the gym in the school, and that was always what I clicked with. I got concussed 3 times in one season, so I was out of rugby. Our school was pretty shit. We were never very good at rugby, so I was one of the only people that could somewhat play. So I got stuck as fullback because no one could fucking tackle anyone, and I got concussed within it was 5 or 6 games. I got concussed 3 times. I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. I got to be sensible. So I kept going with the training side, and I was like, this is what I love. I was like, this is what I enjoyed. I enjoyed going in for the weight sessions way more than I enjoyed getting on the pitch and playing. Sounds crazy, but that's what I always enjoyed from it. And from there, the content creation kind of stuff happened a little bit naturally for me. Like I always enjoyed messing around with cameras and stuff like that. I was always okay at it. I got in contact with one of the PTs at Everlast at the time, started doing photography and videography for them, and from there it just kind of snowballed. I met one person that referred me to another, and it just picked up from there. And that's what I did. Last year of A-levels, I kind of dropped off paying attention a little bit in school. I just started doing that more and more. So I did that for about a year and a half. That's where I met everyone that I now know in the fitness industry. So it was a really weird setup for what I do now without me even realizing it. Through meeting these bodybuilders, coaches, all that kind of stuff, I was like, that's what I want to do, not this. And from there, it was just right, okay, what do I need to do to go into that place?
So it was content creating, photography, videography first before.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, so that I'd have been maybe 17, 18 doing that. So that was, last year of school I started doing it. Didn't go to uni or anything. Came straight out of school, did that full time, self-employed, just messing up. I was just a kid with a camera filming shit for people, I just enjoyed it. And that took me to do some really cool things. That's how I met Joe, my coach. That's how I met Jordan and Corin, the people that own the gym that I train at. That's how I met some of the people that took me out to Turkey to go do content creation for them out there, and I got flown around the world to do content creation. But yeah, after a year, I was like, I want to be where they're at, not what I'm doing. Which was a really, really cool realization to have. I know that puts a lot of people off because they're like, I've wasted a load of time. It definitely wasn't like that at all. I was like, what I've spent the last year doing has set me up to be here. But it was right, okay, I don't mind making that switch. Because I was like, every time I go do these shoots, I was like, I want to be what they're doing. I want to be the person in front of the camera. I want to be the one prepping, doing competitions, working with clients, doing all these big things. So it was then just having these conversations with these people going, how did you get there? And it just kind of fast tracked me into that place.
How did those conversations go?
Yeah, really good. The one thing people don't realize about the fitness industry, especially the bodybuilding industry, is everyone's so fucking nice. Everyone is so lovely. These are people that are some of the top bodybuilders in the country, in the world, and they would sit down with me after video sessions and go through training stuff with me. I trained with some of the best competitors in the country when I was 17, 18, when there was nothing to me. I'd really just got started in this journey. But, I showed them that I was passionate in it, showed them that this is something I wanted to do. They saw that, and they were like, yeah, I think to a degree they saw what they pushed in themselves when they were my age. And yeah, they took me in for sessions. I trained with some fantastic people over those years, learned from some incredibly smart people. And it was right, okay, if you're going to get started and you're going to do this properly, here's what we'd recommend. So that knowledge was like fast tracked, which was crazy.
So was this around 18?
Yeah, this would have been 18, 19. I think 19, I was pretty much starting to drop off the video stuff. I still do like bits and bobs. But 19 was when I first started PTing. So I got my level 2 and 3 qualifications in December 2018. First started PTing in January 2019. And it's just kind of carried on from there.
And what's the goal?
The goal, so I got bodybuilding goals and I got professional goals. So the bodybuilding goal is to get to the Olympia stage. That's the overarching goal over pretty much everything I do day to day. So for that, I got to win a pro card. I got to compete in a pro show, do well in a pro show, and win a pro show. So a lot of big steps that are on their own big challenges. I'm confident in my ability. I have been. I know that my genetics aren't shit. They're not great. Like I know guys that are my age that are triple the size of me. You know, like they're nothing special in the bodybuilding world at all. But I know I can work to make it happen. It's just time. I've got 15 plus years doing this now, so there's so much time to make that happen. And then professionally, like I want to be one of the top coaches in the country, in the world. Like I want to be known for education. I want to be known for putting out information that is like of the highest level, and helping people where I'm at now, become better coaches, become better trainers, become better athletes because of that information, not just the whole, right, we've got to eat more, we've got to eat less and move more to lose weight. Like this is like, right, okay, we got to do these minute things to make these specific things happen. Like, that's where I want to be with the coaching. It's gonna take a lot of work because there's a lot of shit to learn, but that's where I want to take the coaching side.
Do you think one of those goals will have to suffer to make them, or can they run side by side?
I think to a degree they're always going to pull from each other. When I was on prep, for example, like the last 4 or 5 weeks of prep, the amount I could put into my business was pretty low. I could just about manage the people I had on with me at the time, but because this is such a long-term thing, I don't think they'll take away from each other too much. There's a lot of these top-level competitors are also world-class coaches. I don't think you can be the best of the best in both, but I think you can be very good in both. For me, the priority will always be the bodybuilding. Like, if one had to give, it will always be the bodybuilding coming first. But like for now, like I got 3-4 years of off season. I'm not stepping on stage or prepping for the next 3-4 years. That's time I can be educating myself, time I can be working on my coaching.
And I know you haven't got there yet, but what do you think would be like the most important factors for your life in the next 5 to 10 years going forward to try and get and reach that goal?
Spending time to get massive, like patience, like this stuff's going to take a long time. Like I've always been very okay with that. Like to put on the amount of muscle I need to be where I want to be is a big ask. It's like when people think of a big competitor, like they've not seen these open level pros. Like you think of the most jacked guy in your gym 9 times out of 10, and they look small stood next to a good amateur, let alone a professional. Like most people won't know the scale of these people. I go in and train at Everlast or something, for example, and I get people come over to me and go, wow, like you look really good, like you're big. Like I'm a fraction of the size I need to be, and most people don't get that because they have never seen that scale. Like they've never seen people that big, but to get there, I know will just take a long time. It's going to be my life for the next 15 years. That just is what it is. So just patience and just like robot like discipline.
So what was that transition from just going to the gym to I want to be on that Mr. Olympia?
Yeah. So it all kind of came off of a sequence. Like, so I started powerlifting when I was 18, like late 18, 19. I was pretty strong as a like 17, 18-year-old. I would have got British records for bench squat and deadlift and total if I'd have just turned up to a competition and done it by like 20 odd kilos, like a pretty decent, like at like 18 under, I was like 60 something kilos. I could deadlift 245, bench 135 and squat 200. I was always strong. I'm short and small, but I was always strong, and it worked. So the goal was initially powerlifting. That's how I met Joe. That's how I started working with Joe, because the records at the time, I don't know if they still are, but they were his. So he'd set those records. Yeah. So it was kind of like right, okay, cool. If anyone's going to go beat them, I want to help you go beat them. So that was kind of the idea to start off with. Obviously, I used to do video work, helping Joe with all his stuff. We went to the British finals in 2018 or 2019. Joe competed and he won the overall there, and that was the first bodybuilding show I ever went to. Like the time I was there, I was like, this is it. Like I've not had I've had a couple of moments like it, but it's very, very rare where you just go into a situation and you're like, this is what I want to do. And it was very clear from that day. I was like, didn't really think about powerlifting after that. I was like, this is the route I want to go down. They had a pro show there as well. Pretty sure it was Nathan Dasher that won it, or James Hollingshead that won the pro show on that day. Anyone that's into bodybuilding will know who those are. For everyone else, they're just random people I know. But they're like ridiculous. They're crazy big. And I saw them and I was like, it was one of those like what the fuck moments. I was like, this is ridiculous. And from that moment, I was like, this is something like I want to find out more about. And from there, it just kind of spiraled.
So let's talk more about like what you doing right now, right this minute. So you're PTing.
Yep.
What else have you got going on?
It feels like a fucking never-ending amount, mate. So I'm a personal trainer in Everlast. I do online coaching as well. I'm an educator for a company called M10, which is one of the top education platforms in the country. We work internationally as well. They're at the very top of coaching other coaches and coaching other PTs. That's something I've just recently started. So between like the three of those and my own bodybuilding, it's pretty full on. Yeah.
And is that literally like 7 days a week, would you say?
Yeah.
Is it?
My work-life balance isn't great. I'll be honest with you. Like most people that know me know that. Like I don't really have much of a social life outside of this kind of thing. Like I'm very lucky that the vast majority of the people I'm very close friends with are in the bodybuilding sphere. So they get it. Like their coaches, they're the same. But like I PT Monday, Friday. I do check-ins for my clients Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I don't really have any switch off time. And from then with M10, the education stuff, we've got calls running Monday through Friday. So I'm in and out of Zoom calls doing check-ins for those clients throughout the week as well. So
is that all virtual?
Yeah, the M10 stuff's all virtual. M10's a gym up in Nottingham. So every 3-4 months we'll go out for a practical weekend, or we'll spend the weekend up there, like doing in-person education stuff, which is pretty cool. That's been like a very surreal thing for me. Like I remember back when I was like 19, I paid to go on one of the M10 courses. Like I did the PT course that I'm essentially now helping run, and I've done practical weekends like that. So to go up and be like the one helping educate and not be the one sat in the seat, like being like, what is going on, is a pretty cool feeling. That's been amazing. I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity.
With your PT competition, what was that one called, and what did you do in that one? Because you're not going to be performing in that particular like bracket, are you? You're going into classic or something like that.
Oh, the bodybuilding stuff.
Yeah.
So I competed in classic. The way they basically split it up is it's dependent on like a look. So like you got 3 main categories really for competing. You got men's physique, which is like the board shorts, what most lads going into the gym will want to look like. That's what Dave competed in. Okay. So they wear long board shorts. They don't really train legs as much. It's more about like big upper body, lean, tight waist. It's all about that like V taper kind of look. Classic physique's what I did, which is like if you imagine Arnold, it's like small waist but more muscular. It's like nothing crazy. It's still like attractive aesthetic kind of stuff. Just bigger, yeah. Within that, you have a weight cap for your height. So for my height, my weight cap was 83 kilos. I got on stage at pretty much that, like as a 22-year-old. So it means I can't really go anywhere within that. If you do turn pro, you get an extra 10 pounds, so extra 5 kilos. But I've got 15 years more doing this. I'm probably going to put on a little bit more than 5 kilos. So we kind of had to make the decision to step up into bodybuilding. Within bodybuilding, there's like weight classes, but it's kind of not unregulated, but it's like basically just be as big as you want. You know, that's
Free for all.
that's essentially it. Just get fucking massive.
Yeah.
Like that's what that whole class is there for. So within like the amateur division, it's like 70 to 80 kilos, 80 to 90, 90 to like 102. And then you go into the like what we call supers, which is like 102 plus. So you just compete within that class essentially with other people at your same weight. You win your class and you compete against everyone at the show. And if you win a national level one of those, that's how you win your pro card. So now I know I'm going to be stepping not only up against people that are like going to be way older, way bigger, but I'm going to be, if I want to do this and I want to win that pro card, I got to beat people that are 105, 110, 120 kilos on stage, which is when I'm talking big boys. Yeah, that's going to be a push. So yeah, that's the new direction.
But how was it going on stage for the first time ever?
I mean, it was amazing. Like that was another one of those moments where it was like, this feels right. Like I was always nervous. Like I was a super shy kid growing up. Like most people who see me now on Instagram and stuff don't realize that. I kind of dropped in the deep. Like working as a PT 5-6 years ago would have been my absolute worst nightmare. Like, I hated it. Like if you'd have asked me to like stand up in front of a classroom of people and speak, I like that would have been my worst nightmare at school. I was so bad. But now it's like it's pretty comfortable. Going up on stage, there was still a little bit in the back of my mind, which was like, what if I go back to that? Like, obviously, being around bodybuilders 24/7 helps. I was like, right, okay, they can do it. I'm the same as them. I'm going to go up and enjoy it. Like, it's going to be fine. But growing up like that, there was still that, what if you go up there and just, like, not choke, but, like, just struggle? You know, it's like, what if that pressure of everyone staring at you, you're literally up there in like tight pants, it's, I've got much on, it's what if that's too much in the moment. Honestly, like, I stepped out on that stage and it felt like I'd done it a million times before. Like it was the weirdest feeling. Obviously we practice posing and we do all that kind of stuff, so that becomes very second nature, but like something just like flipped a switch and I just chilled out and enjoyed it. Like it was just fun. The lads that I competed with were great. They were all really, really nice guys. We had a laugh up there, I had an amazing time. It was very much like a, okay, cool, I feel at home here. And that was amazing. That was like the moment where I was like, yeah, this is the right thing for me. I was like, I know I'm doing the right thing here. So it's one of those bittersweet things of like, I know now it's going to take a long time to get into that stage point because I'm going to have to be 95 plus kilos on stage to be there again. But I can't wait to get back up there. That was amazing.
And when is the next show for you, do you reckon?
It will probably be in another 3 or 4 years. Like being realistic with the amount of muscle I need to put on to be competitive, it's going to be like top end of 90 kilos on stage, like shredded out your mind. That means like getting off season up to like 115, like plus, which my height's going to suck.
It's going to be a circle.
Yeah. I mean, I got to 102, 103 last off season. I was pretty fat. It wasn't good. It wasn't a good 100 plus. But I got to 100 plus and I was like, this is hard. That's the only thing where I'm like, that weight, like my height's going to be a struggle, but I've got to do it. That's the only way it will happen. So you've got to put that size on.
And with putting on size, how do you do it? How do you feel like it helps you the most? You hear these dirty bulks, you hear these clean bulks, you hear all of this. Like, do you get like fat, or are you still quite muscular fat? Like,
yeah,
different sort of.
Yeah,
fats.
there's different ways of doing it. Yeah. I mean, I always urge people to stay as lean as possible. Like we know from like research and stuff like that, the leaner you can stay, the more sensitive your body is to putting on new muscle tissue. Getting fat straight out the gate is just going to slow your progress. So that whole like dirty bulking idea is great because you put on 20 kilos in 10 weeks, but you've put on 19.5 kilos of fat, which you've then got to lose. So it's a really, really slow way of then adding muscle over time. The way we do it is we just slowly ramp up food, and we just keep things as clean as possible. Like I've always had a fast metabolism. I was a skinny kid growing up. Food has to get very high for me to really push body weight. I remember we finished last off season on like 7,500 calories a day, 6.5 of which were clean, like rices, oats, cream of rice, pasta, that kind of stuff. And then we'd have like cookies and muffins and stuff like that in there just to top it over that like 6,500 mark. It's not fun, but I definitely looked better for doing it that way. I think if I'd have just gone like, oh fuck it, I'm gonna have 3,000 calories of good food, and then try smashing as much like burgers, ice cream, and shit that I can get in me, I one would have got fatter way faster, and I definitely wouldn't have put in on like anywhere near as much muscle tissue as I did. So yeah, taking it slow, don't rush it. Like there's time for this process. Like we know from like research, the rates of muscle gain is pretty minimal. Like for someone that's natural, that's been into training for a couple of years, you're looking at like 3 kilos, 4 kilos a year. You know, so if you're bulking up 20 kilos in a year, you've only put on really 17 kilos of muscle. Maybe if you're doing every box right, you might be in that upper limit of like 5, 6. Still 15 kilos of fat you've then got to strip off you, which is gonna suck. So it's like make your life easier long run, but it's their own. Like it works. Like you get the calories high enough, you stick to the food for long enough, you'll grow. But I've always been a believer on one, your life is gonna be way nicer because you're not gonna be walking around fat all the time. But you're gonna be in a better position to like keep training performance high and all those kind of things, which we know is also gonna help that muscle building process. So when you're looking at like 1% as a competitor, staying lean is definitely the way forward.
Going back to you saying you're a skinny kid with high metabolism, that's like two of the most common problems with young teens. Either they're too big and they want to cut down, or they're too skinny, which is in my case, you search up how to bulk up for skinny guys.
Yeah.
In like your case, what was the most effective and most efficient way that you did it, or from now how you've learned, what would be the most effective way, and how do you stop the demotivation when maybe your results are not as quick as you think?
Yeah, I mean, it is hard. Like when you care about something and you want progress, to not see it straight out the gate sucks. And it's hard to not keep motivation there. Like I see it with clients all the time. What I would always recommend, like coming from a skinnier person with a very high metabolism, what I didn't realize is what I thought was eating was not eating. Like I would be trying to bulk on like 3,000 calories, 4,000 calories. And in my head, I was like, oh, well, I see like videos of like Chris Bumstead eating 3,000 calories a day, 4,000 calories a day in his off season. If he's eating that and he's way bigger, why aren't I getting bigger if I'm eating that?
That's how I saw it.
Yeah, but everyone's unique. Like what works for me might not work for you. Into like if I eat my diet and you follow that, you won't see the same progress as I see. You know, you got to treat yourself as an individual. The harsh reality is if you're not growing, you need to eat more. It really is black and white like that. And there are smart ways you can go about making your life easier with this. But like it's if you're stepping on the scales week on week and it's like the weight's not going up, it's like that's really the only thing we have control of. Things that people don't realize do make a difference is like when you are skinnier and you do have a high metabolism, 9 times out of 10 you're going to be way more active anyway. That's usually the reason your metabolism sits a bit higher. You know, like you're doing your martial arts stuff all the time, you're very, very active, you're on your feet for work all the time. That adds up way more than you expect. So that has to be taken into account. It's like most of these people with slow metabolisms, work an office job where they sit down 9 to 5 every day. And they're like, oh, it's my metabolism, it's my genetics. It's like you do like 3,000 steps a day. Probably are going to put on weight pretty fast. You're not going anywhere. You know, you're walking out the door of your office to your car, driving home and walking to the sofa and sitting down. That's not an active lifestyle, you know? So it's like, right, okay, maybe for someone like you, you're not going to slow down on what you do. And I would never recommend people to slow down. So it's like, right, okay, we got to ramp up the other side, which we do have control over, which is the food. It's like, right, we got to find smart ways of increasing that food intake, which is not easy. And like I said, that's what I struggled with. That's where like my journey in fitness was so much slower to kick off than it should have been because I just couldn't get my head around I'm not eating enough. Like I was full, so I was like, oh, I must be eating enough. And I used that feeling of I feel full to gauge whether I thought I was eating enough or not. And if the scale weight's moving up, that's what's telling you you're eating enough. You know, like I spent the last year and a half of off season feeling full every day. I'm not saying you have to go to that extreme, but you know, there's probably going to get there at some point. You know, but it is as black and white as if the scale's not moving, you probably need to keep pushing it. You know.
Yeah, what I found as well when I was doing a bit of bulking was sometimes you do have to push yourself through that, like, not sort of force feeding, but on a level force feeding.
It literally is. It is force feeding.
Because to get to the other side, because when I was eating oats, I remember putting 50 grams of oats in, and I was full after those 50 grams. The next, like, after 3 days, I then put like 65, and then I was like, oh, I can't finish that. And there's like a couple of spoonfuls left. You finish it, then the next day, that 65 is not so bad. It's like the exact same as training. The 50 kg, like if you're smaller, the 50 kg bench, you're like, what the hell? That's sometimes it's muscle memory. Yeah. Like your stomach is muscle.
It's conditioning your body to get used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the way I always relate it to clients is like, where is your dream physique? It's like for you, like the way you would like, if you could just snap your fingers and look the perfect way that you've ever wanted to look. It's like, how many people do you actually see walking around like that? Very, very, very few, you know? How many people do you think also would like to look like that or very similar? Right, so there's a pretty big gap between what people would like and what people are. So we know that in order to get to that place, it's probably going to be pretty difficult. It's probably going to be quite a lot that most people aren't willing to do to make that happen. So you then have to kind of like line up your values of, am I happy just chilling and being really comfortable in everything? Or do I really want this? It's like, right, okay, if I really want this, I'm going to have to go through some uncomfortable stuff. It's like there's a saying that's like in life we choose our pain sources, like we choose our discomfort. You either choose the pain of like sitting and staying in the same place and you're unhappy with your physique but you're comfortable in your life, or you make your life a little bit uncomfortable. You eat a little bit more than you think you want to, or you eat a little bit less than you think you want to, but you get a physique that you look in the mirror and go, fuck me, I'm proud. Or like, it's even little things. Like I work with clients, people don't really see this as a thing, but like I have clients tell me like they're not confident enough to take their tops off in front of their partners. Like literally they won't have sex with the lights on because they won't even take their top off in front of their partners. For me, I'm like, because I've always pushed myself, that's never been something I've had to deal with. So when I hear that, I'm like, fuck, that's wild. That's crazy. But it's like, I would rather stick to eating not maybe the most exciting foods and not having a Domino's 3 times a week or something, and be able to take my top off whenever I feel like it and be like, yeah, I'm proud of the way I look, then start to every time like sleep with my partner, I feel like, oh yeah, I got to turn the lights on because otherwise I feel like I'm gonna look like shit. You know, like we choose that discomfort point. The nice thing is like you have control over that 100% of the time. People don't really realize that. Like, well, people do, but they don't like to accept it because then that means if they're uncomfortable and unhappy with something, they have to take responsibility. But it's like anyone can achieve crazy results, and this is why I like doing the job I do, is because I show that to people all the time. Like anyone can have the physique they're after. There is absolutely nothing stopping them. It's like, but is that result more important to you than what you do on a day-to-day? It's like, does going out on the weekend and having a couple of beers with your mates mean more than that? Does not having to come home and meal prep 2 times a week mean more than that? Does getting to have a line instead of getting up and going and do some cardio in the gym or going and training mean more than that? That's when you find the answer. And it's like, if you're not willing to do the work, and this, as a coach, I'm kind of harsh with people on this. I'm like, if you're not willing to do the work, you can't be unhappy with the fact you've not seen the result. Right? That's the bottom line of it, you know?
I think that is a problem in our society at the moment, is that not enough people are harsh.
Yeah, 100%. We're in a bit, like, I chat to one of the other PTs in our gym about this. It's like, we're in a very like soft culture, and I think there's time to be empathetic. And I don't also agree in the everyone just needs to suck up their shit and deal with it. Like, there's times to work with people, and like my clients will very much back this up. It's like that something will happen which is like genuinely something we need to consider, and it's like, right, okay, we'll take a back seat because we need to. But there's also times where it's like your excuses are just shit. Like, you know, it's like, oh, I've had a bit of a hard day at work, I've missed my training session. It's like, cool. You know, it's like everyone has hard days. You know, like it's like on prep. You know, like every day I was tired. Every day I was hungry. Every day I didn't want to go in and do my cardio. But you go do it. You know, it's do you want the excuses or do you want the results? It's bottom line.
And what I wanted to ask, because you said you talk to your clients and you say what is the perfect physique. If that's the answer to this question, then don't worry. But what is the first thing that you say to your clients? If I was a new client right now, what would the first thing you would say to me?
So one of the first things I always go through with clients is, and I put this to them in this very specific way, is what would make your experience of working with me a success after 12 weeks or 6 months, however long we decide we're going to start working together. I'm like, what for you is a perfect outcome? I'm like, because like most people will go, oh, okay, I'm working with a PT, I need to get shredded. Like I work with so many people that don't want to get shredded. Like they want to get really strong. You know, they want to go down and be confident on the gym floor. So it's always a what for you would be the ideal outcome. Like where would you be in your life? And I work with a lot of my clients around like their mindset, their habits, and everything within their life. I'm a big believer in all that stuff plays in. Is what would your like ideal outcome be in 12 weeks time? Like what would all of that stuff look like? And not only because it gives me a direction to push them in, but because it creates a tangible vision for them to like work towards. Because it's so easy to be like, I want to get shredded. It's like, okay, cool, but you've never thought of what you'd look like shredded. You don't know what shredded is. You don't know what shredded is going to feel like, and you don't know what shredded means. Like if you start saying, and this like I don't know if you've heard of like smart goal setting. Like one of the big things about smart goal setting is like you're very specific on what you want. You know, it's like
specific, measurable,
achievable, spot here,
realistic,
and time based. Yeah, so it's essentially setting up targets based off of things you like can tangibly achieve. Because everyone will be like, oh, I want to get a little bit bigger. But it's like my version of bigger and your version of bigger is going to be pretty different. You know, like where I want to get size wise is going to be very different to where you want to get. So just saying I want to get a bit bigger doesn't make sense as a goal.
Okay, bodybuilding time.
Yeah, all right, we're getting you fucking massive.
Exactly.
But like that's what people don't understand is like you have to be specific with that stuff. So it's always the first thing I'll go through with clients is like, what is that ideal outcome for you? Because like I get people that like I just want to go down onto the gym floor and not be worried everyone's staring at me and go through a session and be confident that I can jump on a machine and know what I'm doing. For them, like if I do that in 12 weeks, they're like everything is worthwhile. They're like, that's perfect. You've got some people who are like, after 12 weeks, I want to be like shredded to the point where you can see pretty much every single muscle under my skin and have no body fat left.
And then you're like, well, you're going to feel like you're going to die then.
Yeah. But the thing is because they've got that place in their head, they can very happily go to that place, you know, where it's like, it gives them something to work towards. It's like, if your dream, like from a business standpoint, is like, I just want to be successful. What does that mean? Yeah, it's like, okay, cool. You could earn £100,000. To a lot of people, that's very successful. To some people, that's what they earn on an hour consultation call. Like I know people that charge £100,000 for an hour consultation call. You know, for them, that's a drop in the ocean of what they do. So it's like, right, okay, we have to be specific in what we're after. Otherwise, you can never get there. It's why, like, I'm really big anti having happiness as a goal. Like, I know it sounds really harsh, but I think that's one of those things where you're never, ever going to achieve it. Like, you won't. Because you could be so happy achieving none of your goals and just doing the absolute bare minimum, but just waking up in the morning and just doing whatever you want in the day. But I know people that are super, like, are doing incredibly well, like to the point where like they've got money to throw around that you wouldn't believe, and they wake up with depression and hate every single day that they wake up. It's like that happiness is so intangible and comes and goes so fast that setting it up and like dedicating your life to just be like, I just want to be happy, doesn't work.
I'm the exact same. This is another one where it's like, it sounds harsh, but when it's like, what's your life goal? It's like, just be happy in life. I think happiness is not a goal, it's a byproduct of a goal.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you can break it down, I guess this is your job to break it down. And you probably quite like it when somebody comes to you and says, I want to get shredded.
Yeah.
You're like, Thank God. Now
It's
I can break
easier.
this guy down.
Yeah.
Like, this guy also will stay with me, hopefully, because I will say to him, that's a stupid goal. Let's break this down. And then you
Yeah.
break it down into loads of little bits. And then the byproduct of that is to get shredded. And then the byproduct of the shredded is to be happy.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's all these little goals, like you were saying earlier, to get to that one big goal. So it's probably a good thing when you get these, I don't know if naive people, when they come and they just say, I want to get big, I want to get small.
Yeah.
You probably like, right, this is going to be good work.
Yeah.
Let's actually break it
We
down.
can work out what you actually want.
Because I think everyone knows what they want. They just don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
And for a lot of people, they won't admit it to themselves. Like, not to, I won't obviously use the name of the person, but like the person that was uncomfortable taking their top off in front of their missus. Like, the first conversation we had, they were like, I just want to get shredded. And it was like, right, okay, we started deep diving into it. It's like, right, okay, why do we want to get, like, he had body fat to come off, like, as a physique transformation coach. It's like, yeah, cool, that is our first port of call anyway. But it's like, right, from having conversations with him, and I'll do this with my clients, it's like working out why the goal is important to them. It's like, right, okay, well, I want to get shredded because I don't really like the way I look. Okay, cool. Why? What about the way you look do you not really like? It's like, I don't like the feeling of not having confidence in being able to take my clothes off. I was like, right, okay, cool. I was like, what about that? Like, what? I was like, you just kind of keep going deeper and
And then
deeper.
it's broken. And
Yeah.
then as soon as he comes out and actually says something, or she, then you're like, that's the main reason.
Yeah.
And then you're like, right, how many times? I've just asked you 5 questions there.
Yeah.
And the actual real reason was the 5th question.
We got down there. But I guarantee the days where they don't want to go do cardio because it's raining outside or whatever shitty excuse they want to throw at it, that reason of, I want to be able to turn the lights on and not worry about taking my top off before I have sex, is like, that's going to take them there.
That's the real
Just wanting to get a little bit leaner is not a big enough pull. You know, when you break down the emotion behind it, you can really get to the real reason. And that's when you start having a huge drive to achieve whatever you want to achieve. And the big thing about all of it as well is getting them to kind of enjoy the process too. I think that helps as well. And like, because as we all know, there's going to be days where you do enjoy it, days you don't enjoy it, you know. And that motivation helps on the days that they don't enjoy it. You know, like, you have to have a big reason to pull you out when, like, especially like on a prep or something, like, you're pretty fucked. Like, you ain't got much left. You know, that motivation of the competition or whatever it is going to pull you through that. But for most people, getting them to enjoy and fall in love with the process is just as big. And I think that's where I view happiness coming in. It's like, there were points on prep where most people would have been like, I don't know how you do it. I can't imagine you doing this. But some of those points were the happiest points of my prep. Like, you really do just fall in love with the process of doing it. You know, like I'm doing stuff most people couldn't do. I'm doing stuff most people wouldn't be able to do. And that is an incredibly like gratifying feeling, and that's something I really enjoy. But finding the process that you enjoy is the way to achieve it and the happiness. Because like you said, you get to the end products and there's always a bigger hill. You know, there's always a new car, a new watch, a new house. There's always something more when we set end product goals like that. If you actually enjoy the day-to-day of it, you're going to be happy every day. You know, and that's like the biggest win then, is like going in and doing like, oh, I do morning routines and evening routines and stuff. It's like, I enjoy getting up and doing those. So it's like, that's like a win. I get up and I go do fasted cardio stuff in the morning and I enjoy it. You know, I'm doing something that's driving me in the direction of my goal. I know that gives me that massive sense of satisfaction. And I'm like, this is cool. I love this process. Like, I genuinely wouldn't change anything I do at all at the moment. I'm very lucky to be in that place, but like, I love the process of getting there.
And with coaching, because I follow quite a few PT coaches, but I don't know if I'm wrong in saying this, but there's not many, I would say, that coach men and women and do a great job of both.
Yeah.
But I've looked at your transformations and I've seen the men and women on your page and they all look amazing. Do you think, is there a difference in your way of coaching or are they pretty similar?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be differences. The way I coach, and I think this helps, is I coach everyone as an individual. So male, female, older, younger, wanting to do bodybuilding, not wanting to compete ever. Like, I coach them, not a group. And I think that helps because, like, once you understand the theory behind coaching stuff, like I've always been massive on education. Like I know the ins and outs of a lot of these different processes. It's like we then just go apply stuff to the individual when they need it. So it's like, right, if I've got a female client going through something and it requires a slightly different way of approaching something than it would do with a male client in the same situation, we just apply that different approach. You know, it's very much just like seeing a problem and fixing a problem. Like I very much relate, obviously like working with the M10 stuff, I work helping coaches and other PTs, and I always relate it to them. It's like, we're just really good problem solvers in the fitness industry. That's basically our job. It's to just solve people's problems day in, day out, you know? And it's like, right, okay, this has come up, right? This is the solution. This is the thought process we need to go through. That's what they need, you know? Whether they're male or female will change what we need to do, but that doesn't change the same thought process. It's just, what do they need in this situation? There's definitely like nuances between coaching each. And I've always been very lucky that when I started PTing, for maybe like the first 3 or 4 years, my client base was predominantly female. Like, it surprised me massively. I thought getting into PT...
I thought you were going to say male there.
No. Yeah. This surprised me straight out of the gate of PT. I was like, I'm a young lad who's in okay shape. I'm probably going to work with young lads who want to get in okay shape. Within maybe like 3-4 months, I was like 75% female clients.
Do you think that helped?
Yeah, it made me learn that side in detail. Like things that most PTs won't consider having an impact. It's like looking at stuff like female physiology and menstrual cycles and all that kind of shit. It's like most PTs will kind of brush over it. Like, it's still kind of taboo for a PT to kind of talk about that kind of stuff. I don't understand why, but it is. Like, I don't fucking know PTs.
Do you think you have to talk about that sort of stuff? Because that's life.
I think it's important because, like you said, it impacts stuff. You know, like if you've got a female PT client going, like one thing that I really, really like, it's probably the thing I talk to my female clients the most is with the check-in process. And like, this is a really good example for it. Of like, it will impact stuff at some point. It's like there's different points in a female's menstrual cycle where they're going to hold different levels of sodium and therefore water. So it's like a female can be dieting and ticking every single box imaginable, you know, doing their cardio, not eating lots and eating their meal plan kind of stuff, ticking every box you could ask, and they'll put on 0.5 kilo. You know, you can imagine how much of a head fuck that is. You know, they've done everything perfectly. They like should be losing weight, and it's like they do the check-in and they're 0.5 kilo heavier. They're lost, like they're losing their mind. And to be able as a coach to be like, right, cool, I'm like, right, when are we expecting to go onto our cycle? Like, where, like with most of my clients, like through the consultation forms and stuff I use, like we'll know roughly where they are on cycles and stuff like that. Is we'll be like, right, okay, we know the water retention is gonna be high right now. We know we're at the point where a certain hormone is at its highest, which means we're gonna be holding on to as much water as we can fully expect throughout this cycle. So of course that's gonna impact things. And it's like, to be able to say that as a coach and reassure them and go, right, we also know that next week this is going to drop down, the water retention is all going to flush off. You're still making underlying progress. And they see this huge like whoosh effect of all the water drops off and the extra body fat from that week drops off. And it's like 0.7, 0.8 of a kilo. And it's like, oh, cool, we're all good. There's so much trust in your coach by doing that, you know?
Yeah, that'll put a lot of trust back into you.
Yeah.
Because to them, it might be like a weird question when you're like,
Yeah.
whereabouts you're in the cycle. They'll be like, how dare you
Yeah.
ask me that? There's a reason behind it. You're getting the science back, and then you reassure them, and then they would be like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. It's probably, obviously, you don't need to know the details, but
Yeah.
you just need to know this is why this is happening.
The crazy thing is, well, the two crazy things with this is, one, most females don't know about that kind of stuff either. Like, the education for females on this kind of stuff is horrendous. Like, from speaking to most of my female clients, they barely know what's going on. So to be able to kind of educate and inform them is really useful and cool as well. But also, most coaches won't know what's going on. So, like, I've had clients come to me where it's like, right, okay, because the other thing about female hormones and stuff like that is it's very inter-individual. Some won't see many changes at all. Some will see these huge up and down fluctuations. Some will be like, right, okay, every time I'm about to come onto my cycle, my body weight fluctuates massively. My last PT just dropped my food even more. And it's like, right, they're now in a point where their energy levels, like, again, this is like a little bit more into like what's going on, is like their hunger signaling is through the roof. their metabolic rates, the amount of calories they're burning day to day is also increased, and you're pulling further food away from them, like they're gonna binge, like they're gonna be fucked. It's like that lack of education really then messes with things. You know, you're then into another week where now they've probably not stuck to their plan. They've gone eaten a lot of stuff. That water's dropped off, but because they've binged and eaten a load of food, their body weight's still up. They've lost most faith in you as a coach, and it's like, right, now we're in a really difficult position now. To go through that month on month and month is then a nightmare for them. So to be able to have that confidence into a coach and be like, right, okay, I know if I'm open and honest, I can get the stuff I need. Because the weird thing as well is, like, as a guy, we think those conversations are going to be really awkward. They're really not. Most females don't mind talking about that kind of stuff at all. Because, like, especially as a PT, they know I'm a professional. Like, it's the same as you go into a doctor and you don't mind having those conversations. You're speaking to a doctor. You know, like, once you kind of get them to go, right, okay, this is stuff that is going to be important to us. Let's have this conversation, and you can kind of show you know what you're talking about. They'll be like, yep, cool, this is what I need to, this is what's going on, this is what's happening, and we can then really start to put a plan in place that works for them. But like I said, that's where I see the difference in a lot of PTs that work with female clients. They don't know that stuff because they don't want to have those conversations. Because again, for a lot of guys, like, they still see it as an awkward conversation, which is, you're a professional, it's crazy in my eyes. But
and how do you educate yourself?
A lot of money on courses.
Do you?
Yeah. Like this is the thing. Like, people think PT is one of those industries where you earn a lot of money. Like, basically everything I've earned for the last 3-4 years has gone back into the business. Like, it really, really has. I've probably spent 5 figures on educational courses in the last 3-4 years, to improve my knowledge on every aspect of physique transformation, everything you can possibly imagine. You know, it's important stuff. You know, in the same way as, like, you're a barber, you spend money on courses to become a better barber. You know, like, the more money you put back into it, the more skills you develop, the better you are. So it's been a lot of educational courses. Obviously, COVID kind of messed with that and did a lot of online courses, but I used to do a lot of practical work. So I went to, like, Birmingham, Nottingham, all those kind of places to do in-person education events, and just paid to pick the brains of some of the smartest people in the industry. As a PT, like, I chat to a lot of young PTs, obviously, like, through M10, and I get a lot of young PTs come and approach me on what to kind of do. Like, self-education is one of the things that will transform your skill set. You know, like, I can't begin to explain the number of PTs that don't even consider learning anything more than their level 3 qualification. They just finish there and they're like, cool, I know everything. That qualification versus what you need to know to be a good coach is ridiculous. Like, that's why the course that I run with M10 is, like, that bridges that gap in that knowledge and skill set. It's designed for people that have just qualified and don't know that stuff. Like, we go through everything, like nutrition training, female physiology, advanced biomechanics, like everything from start to finish to be a world-class coach. But that self-education stuff is what will get you there. It's just putting that investment time into it, and, like, you start speaking to the right people. Usually when you start dipping into the education side of whatever you're doing, they'll be able to recommend pretty good people. Like, I've now got a list of 10-15 different courses that I still want to go on in the future. Like, that education stuff never stops, and that's something you'll see from people that are, like, killing it in the industry. Is they're still wanting to learn, they're still wanting to improve, they're still wanting to get better, because that, like, pursuit of betterment never really ends. But yeah, it's just been going out and paying for a lot of education stuff, really.
So what do you think makes you different to, like, any other 23-year-old?
It's a weird one because in my eyes, I'm not different to any other 23-year-old. Like, I don't see me as being anything different to anyone else. Like, I've always kind of been that way. I will always say, though, the one thing I'm always incredibly grateful for is I found something I loved very early on, which not a lot of people can say. I was very, very lucky in that. Whether that was through intention and doing stuff to be put in that position, or whether that was just pure luck, I found what I loved very, very young. And that's kind of, like, led that path, and it's kind of worked out for me in that way. That's not to say that it's not been a very difficult path. Like, there's been a lot of ups and downs with it, but it's very much been a like, as soon as I start putting energy into something, the kind of next step unveils, and I'm like, right, okay, I know I need to kind of be doing this, and it's like, right, okay, and the next thing I'm gonna be doing is this, like, that path kind of unfolds in front of you. Like, I speak to a lot of people like our age, and they're like, I don't know what to do in my future. Like, I have no idea. The big thing I say to people is like, if you're like walking through, like, my clients know this, I use a lot of like analogies when I'm explaining shit. It's like when you're walking through a forest, you're not looking at how you're getting out of the forest, you're just looking at the step in front of you. It's the same with finding what you want to do in life. Like, you're looking at that next step. The rest of the path will unfold as you keep walking. You know, you'll find your way out eventually. You'll find what you're supposed to be doing. Like, that content creation stuff, for a lot of people, they'd have been like, that was a wasted year and a half. That put me in the position to know the people that I know now, that I work with now, you know, and like, again, if in 5 years time I don't want to bodybuild and I don't want to PT and coach, I know that what I've put into this will set me up for whatever I want to do next. I know time is ever wasted as well. So having that kind of like mindset of just, fuck, I'm just going to give it a go, and I'm just going to do it to the best of my ability and know that that next step will come out. I'd say if anything, that probably makes me a little bit different. But yeah, I still don't see myself as very different to most 23-year-olds.
The reason why I ask, because obviously every time you come into the barbershop, it's always a intelligent, mature sort of mindset. Even when I'm guessing from 20, 21, 22, 23, you've always been the same. Obviously, you said you found it young. You surrounded yourself with these people that were in the industry. You weren't in the industry at first, and then you spoke to them, you were in there. The reason why I say that is because I can see your mindset is so strong, so focused on this passion of yours. And even if, like you said, this passion fades away, you can still find your way back by just taking the next step.
Yeah.
So how important do you think having that mindset, or just having a good mindset, or having a focused mindset in life and work, how important is that?
Yeah, massive. Like, our mindset is everything. You know, the way we approach situations is absolutely everything. Like, even before I was coaching in PTing, I was always interested in psychology, and it's always something I've liked looking into, and seeing how powerful the way we look at things and the way we look at situations becomes. Like, most people don't realize this. I'm pretty like hippie in the fact that I like believe in like energies and frequencies and all that kind of stuff. I know, like, being a bodybuilder and a PT that's like big on education stuff, people are like, oh, that's a bit weird. But I've always been a big believer in that kind of stuff. Like, I've always found in my life that the more energy I put in stuff, the more stuff just kind of falls off in front of me. Like, I think it was you probably, do you know Bugsy Malone, the rapper? Yeah, he did a like an interview where he said it's like having two treadmills. You know, when you start putting energy into the positive treadmill, positive stuff just falls off. You know, it's like, I can't explain why that happens, whether that's through deliberate action or whether that's through putting energy into the right stuff and energy from the universe coming back and putting stuff in the place for you. But I've seen that happen in my life so often, that's something I'm a big believer in. It's like, whether it's a small action or a big action, it's taking positive steps always. It's like, right, that's the direction we're moving in. So I won't really ever sit down and badmouth people and put a lot of negative energy out there either.
Is that kind of similar? That's like, in other words, like karma.
Yeah.
When you believe in karma, like,
yeah, it's karma, law of attraction, all of that kind of stuff is the same kind of idea. It's and this is why, like, this is why I kind of believe in it, because you see it from so many different like religions and so many different things. Like, you can also get super spiritual and stuff, but like, you see it in so many different like walks of life. So many different ancient histories talk about this kind of stuff. This idea of what we put out gets brought back to us, and I'm like, whether it's true or not, if I'm doing it, I at least might be right. You know, like, if I only put positive stuff out, like, I only try to help people, I only speak kindly of other people, then whether good or bad stuff happens, I know I'm doing all I can to receive good stuff. And just living a life of trying to be positive and trying to do everything. Like literally everything I do day to day is, how can I help people? Like, I work in an industry where I'm helping people every single day. And I see that come back. Like I see they're more confident in their day to day. You know, like I've had clients like get promotions. I've had clients like because the way they approach their life is completely different. You know, I've had clients getting new relationships with people that I guarantee you when they first started with me they'd have never have chatted to that person in their entire life. But you know, their confidence levels have improved. The energies, because I'm putting good energy to them, they're putting good energy out, and it comes back for them as well. So you see this cycle start to happen, and that's kind of why I believe in it.
And I think it can be quite I'm so bad with words. Is it unconscious?
Subconscious.
Yeah, subconscious.
Yeah.
Unconscious, like when
When you passed out.
Yeah.
That's that one.
Yeah.
Subconscious.
Yeah, it's like a subconscious thing. I think if you're feeling good energy towards me, even in these chats, I felt it. If somebody's a little bit nervous, when I suddenly start to try and calm down and I talk confidently, they're like, "Oh, he's talking confidently. I can just chill out."
Yeah.
I fully believe in it. I don't even know if it's something that you can believe in. I just think it's there. It's true.
I know a lot of people that don't believe in it. That's the reason that I like call it a belief thing. Yeah. But it's like this is the flip side that everyone kind of agrees on. Like everyone's so anti the positive side. It's like how many times have you been in a rush in the morning having a shit day and everything just goes wrong? Yeah. You know, you're stressed out.
Everyone uses the word.
Yeah.
Oh, everything's going wrong for me today.
Yeah. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. Yeah. We're just talking about the flip side. You know, it's like we're stressed, we're in a bad mood, we're rushing, you start shouting at the person in the car in front, you know, someone makes a mistake and all you can think about is that, and you're just in that negative spiral. All you can think about is negative stuff. You know, you use the flip side, everyone believes in that as well. That's the thing, is like, speak to anyone, they're like, yeah, I've had those days. They're like, they know exactly what you're talking about. If you're like, right, well, what if we flip that and start putting positive stuff out there? Like, oh, no, that's just hippie. Like, that doesn't work. It's wild. But yeah, it's a weird one.
There's also been days where everything's going bad, and then you go, do you know what? Why am I going so bad? Then you flip something, you like tidy your room for like half an hour, then everything starts to go like a bit more, it like plateaus a bit. It's not going down, it just stays there, and then it might pick up again because you've switched that energy to like, actually this is not a bad thing, this is a good thing. Let's switch that. Let's go here. Let's do this. Let's do that, and then your energy goes up and up and up. And especially for a bodybuilder, not bodybuilder, personal trainer, I think if you believe in that, that's what makes you a good I keep saying bodybuilder, good PT as well. Because if you believe that if you release good energy to people and they will feel it and they'll start using it in their normal life, I think that will have such a positive effect on them. Because even if they've just had a crap day the whole day, they come to you and they go, that one phrase, oh, everything's going wrong today. You know, you believe in that, so you go, right, if I do something positive today and I see them smile, they might go home and everything in the evening goes right for them. Yeah. Because you believe in that. So then you put more of an effort into that positive energy and that good energy. And I think it is true. If they have a good session with you, or maybe you might beast them a bit more than you might be like, actually, let's beast them more, and then they'll be
depends,
like,
yeah. It definitely depends on the person, but like 100%. Like I have clients come in and they're like, I've just had the worst day. Like they're like, I really didn't want to come in today. I really didn't want to do anything. But you know, we get a massive endorphin release from doing exercise. That alone can be enough to flip that switch from bad to good. You know, you then start having some really good conversations. Like I got shit chat, but at least I can make a PT client laugh sometimes and stuff like that. It's like that helps them. You know, they come away a bit happier from the conversations we've had. You know, they also know they've done something positive and worked towards their goals. All of a sudden that compounds and they go home and they're like, actually, that was quite good. You know, they can kind of forget about what's happened in the day. Like, again, I speak to a lot of my clients about mindset stuff, so we'll sometimes go over what's kind of happening. I'm right, okay, well, that was nothing to do with us. That's out of our control. We don't need to worry about that. That is our reaction to something leading us astray. You know, that was a pretty benign situation that we've like blown way out of proportion in our mind. You know, there's something we don't need to be stressing about. Like someone pulls that in front of you. It's like, okay, cool. They're probably a bit of a dickhead, but move on with your day. Like, it's fine, but that will stick with people for days. You know, it's like But that's then other people's mindsets, and that's one thing I do help clients work with quite a lot. Is like, right, how do we respond to a situation? Because that then ties into like if you've got clients with like emotional eating issues and stuff like that, is that then where it falls into the realm of personal training a little bit. But you know, like even just having those conversations, it's like them getting to just dump and become a therapist. Like the more and more I start to do this, the more and more I see PT being a therapy session for people just as much as anything else. It's crazy.
It's everything. It's a physical and mind therapy session.
Basically, becoming a PT is absolutely nothing like you expect being a PT to become. Like that's one of the weirdest things. Is like I would never have expected. Like when I first did my PT qualification, I would never have expected in a million years that I would be doing the stuff I do now on a day-to-day basis at all. Like going through the stuff I go through with clients. Like I thought, like I just go into the gym and stand next to someone, and this there are a lot of shit PTs that are like this. They'll just go next to a client and just count reps on an exercise, and it'll be the next client comes in. They just do 3 sets of 10 on a chest press, and then they jump on a cable fly. And it's right, okay, we just move through this session, have a little bit of a chat, but it's just like nothing deep or nothing important. If you want to be a really, really good PT, you have to wear all those hats. You know, you're being their physiotherapist. You got to know what's going wrong with injuries and issues and stuff. You know, you're being their therapist when they come in for sessions. You're working on their mindset and helping them develop good, strong things there. You know, you're looking at their lifestyle and you're becoming a life coach in that. Like you wear a lot of hats, which is amazing because like not only do I see clients make incredible physique transformations, but they come out at the end of the coaching service a completely different person, which for me is amazing. But it's wild to think that when I first started, I thought it was just right, okay, let's just turn up and smash through the session.
I think you saying that, what you thought it was going to be, but from your mindset and how you are as a person and the way you're just talking about the mind being a psychological session rather than just a physical session. Just cut that. What you were talking about, it being a psychological session and a physical session. I think that seems to be your favourite part though.
Yeah.
Like, I think you didn't expect it to be that, but I think that's the reason why you've got such a passion for it, because it is both.
Yeah, 100%. Like, the sessions I look forward to most are the difficult sessions. Like, it sounds really weird, but like if I've got someone that comes in and they're like, they don't really have a big goal, they're like, I just want to maybe feel a little bit better, just maybe like build a little bit of muscle, but not make a crazy change. They don't have any injuries, issues, you know, they're a very normal person. Like, I don't mind working with people like that, but I don't get the same kind of like, it's almost like mental stimulation. Like, you're not thinking doing it. It's like, mate, you probably get it. It's like, how many times do you get asked to do a skin fade every day? It's like, at that point, you start to switch off. You know, if someone comes in with a completely wild haircut request, and you're like, yeah, this is fun. You know, like, that's what you kind of get excited to go do. It's the same thing as I could sit next to people and put them through a basic session all day, every day. You know, charge not really very much for it and just work with the numbers of people. I would never enjoy that. You know, it's right, okay, like when all of a sudden someone comes in and like, right, every time I've ever done chest training, I only ever feel it in my shoulder. And I've got this injury and this injury. And when I do this happens. It's like, right, I got to think. You know, I got to work this out. And like the amount of times I have clients come to me where they're like, and this isn't a brag or anything, but it's like I've worked with 3 or 4 other PTs and they've not been able to sort this. And we've spent 2-3 sessions together and we've fixed the problem they think is for life. It's like, okay, cool, I'm making a difference here. You know, like, again, like, this is something that PTs definitely forget, is we're in the position to change people's lives hugely. Like, we can transform someone's life, you know, and I think it has to be treated with that kind of level of thought and intent behind it. It's like anyone else in the position that has the control over as many things as we do in someone's lives, you know, like you're a doctor, you're a psychologist, whatever, you're in university for years. You know, I passed my PT qualification in 6 weeks. It's nothing, you know. Yeah. So it's like, right, we've got to take this seriously.
Does that worry you that there's maybe a lot of barbers? There's a lot of PTs out there that just do 6 months and then they're out there not really caring. They are just there for a chat.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of people think it's easy money. Like, this, the thing is, like, most PTs here, like I don't charge this, but they charge, they hear like £30 a session. Like even that, like that's very low for a personal trainer. Like, that's very, very low for a personal trainer. Like they hear £30 a session, they go, oh, that's £30 an hour, amazing. That's a dream. Like what jobs can you go straight into at £30 an hour? Like, fucking none. It doesn't work like that. For any PT that's thinking about doing it and here's £30 a session and go, yeah, I'm earning £30 an hour. It doesn't work like that because you're not fully booked. That doesn't happen, you know. But you got to pay PT rent and all that kind of stuff. It definitely doesn't equate to that kind of money anyway. But they see it as like, oh, I like going and training. It looks like easy money, so they come in. So I think I read a study like the average lifetime for a PT is like 1 to 2 years. You know, like, that's it. People are in and out fast, and it's because like there's such a gap between what you need to do on a day to day and what you're taught to do that there's like that massive overwhelm. You know, like you come in and start working with clients, they don't get results because you don't really know what you're doing. You know, you don't get referrals, you don't get new people sign up, you don't know what you're doing enough to pick up new clients, and they drop off. And this is why, like, this is one of the reasons I was so excited to get on board with the M10 thing, because it bridged that gap for people. It was like, right, okay, here's where this PT qualification leaves us, which is like nothing. That's like becoming a barber and just learning how to change the fucking settings on a clipper. It's horrendous how little it teaches you. And to then go in and expect to be a £100 an hour PT, you know, that's such a different world. So it's right, okay, there is a big gap here, and I think there should be a lot more education there, and that's why I was genuinely so excited to be part of this mentorship thing, because that bridged that gap. And there's more people talking about that now. People are starting to see that difference. It will just be now getting general population, like everyone else, to see the difference between a highly educated, maybe more expensive personal trainer and someone that's just become qualified and charges £25 a session.
And yeah, I was thinking, because you're such a driven person, were you thinking, I need the next step, like a couple months ago, a year ago, and now this M10 thing's come around, you're this mentor. Is this something that is just the next step, and then you're going to do the next step?
Yeah. Like I was actually in talks with someone to set up our own post PT qualification education system, but it fell through from their end, which is what it is. Like that happens to people. That's not the end of the world, and it just came at the right time. Like it was just purely good timing that this opportunity came up. But for me, I was like, I always knew the education side was somewhere I want to go. Like I've run workshops and seminars and stuff in Everlast. Like I've done practical education stuff for people. I've always enjoyed it. It's just something I've enjoyed doing. So it was like, right, this is the logical next step. But again, it's learning stuff. You know, I'm learning how some of the top PTs in the country operate. I'm learning how one of the biggest fitness like industry companies works from the inside out. So it's stuff where I go then do my stuff in the future. I pick up that and it pushes me in that direction. You know, I'm meeting the right people. It pushes that direction. Like it's all steps. I don't know where the next step's going to be. That doesn't matter. I don't mind that. Like 6 months ago, I couldn't have told you that was going to be the step I took, but it was the right step. It came up, and because of all the work I put in the past, I was in the right place at the right time for it. Like, it's that whole luck thing. Is like I don't massively believe. I believe in energies and stuff, but I don't believe in luck. I'm like, you do the work to position yourself in the right place when a situation comes about. Situations will come about whether you're lucky, unlucky, whether you work hard, you don't work hard. Opportunities will always present themselves. It's whether you've done the background work to be in the right place to take that opportunity up.
No, I was going to ask you, how far can PT take you?
Yeah.
But then I changed it, because you've got such like an innovative drive.
Mm-hmm.
How far can George Hanks take PT?
I like it. It's good. Yeah. This is again one of those things. I think it will unfold in front of me. I wanted to create my own education platform app. That was where the next move was going to be. So if you've seen like the Nike Run Club type stuff, you know, where they have those inbuilt workouts, it was basically going to be like a tiered education type thing. But because of the M10 stuff, that would now be conflict of interest. I can't do that, essentially. But I think this is a better opportunity for me now anyway. I think for Short term, it will definitely be deep dive more into the education stuff, 100%. Like start working my way up within M10, becoming a more well-known educator. At the moment, I'm what's called a performance coach. So I basically coach the other coaches and PTs within the program. But above us, we've got educators that run the education calls, film all the content. Getting to that point eventually is one of the goals, to be that well respected as an educator, essentially. It will mean like slightly niching down a little bit and finding, because I'm pretty confident in my knowledge across the board, but the difference with these educators is they're really good at something. So like one of the coaches we've got on here, Olympia, she's incredible at female physiology. She runs female physiology stuff. Like I'm pretty switched on. She like baffles me every single week. I jump on her call and I have no idea what she's talking about most of the time. Like, I'll ask her questions all the time and like try and put as much information as I can do from her. She's incredibly smart. But that's a step I definitely want to go. And continue. Like I still don't think I'm anywhere near the limit of what I can do as a PT and coach. I definitely want to start coaching more competitors. I've got a couple of lads that are going to compete in the near future, which I'm very, very excited about. That will just start to come about more and more, I think. If I can get a couple more people on stage, start pulling more people to come and compete, and that just kind of snowballs, and then coach higher level competitors, and that will pick up. So between the two, like that's the direction I want to go in. The specifics, like I think they'll just come about when they come about. I kind of trust that. Like again, it's that whole energy thing. Is I trust that stuff. Like the right decision at the right time, like the M10 thing. The right thing will come about at the right time, and then we'll just jump on that opportunity when we can do.
And to become the best, one of the best PTs in the world, would you have to take it globally, or do you think just UK?
I mean, I already coach international clients.
Oh, do you?
I got clients in France. I got clients out in the Channel Islands. I've had clients in America. I've had clients in Europe.
I haven't done my research.
I know, slacking. No, yeah, I got clients all over the place. That's the cool thing about online. So yeah, that's something I'm already doing. I think that kind of reach just like falls into its own thing. Like that for a point I was, this is really weird, but for a point I was actually one of the most successful online coaches in Guernsey. Okay. Like fucking the most random shit ever. But I had like 6 or 7 clients from there. Yeah. Like they don't have any big PTs or coaches, you know, like 7 population. Yeah, I know. That's the thing. I was like, because like I got into like one of the girls that's been with me right from the start when I started PTing. She's quite well known out there. She's like a like local influencer. She's actually moved to the UK now. She had like 10-15K followers. She still approached me. She still paid full price for coaching, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't like an outreach type thing, but you know, she just started promoting the results she was getting. She was getting really good results, and her friends just started taking notice and came on board. All of a sudden, that stuff picks up, and that's how that kind of, I think that's how all of that momentum kind of works. And like I said to you, I think it was before we were even on the thing. I was like, that's where I want to be as a coach as well. Is like my results do the talking. You know, like someone will come to me not because they've seen an ad on Facebook, but because they've seen the transformations I've produced and go, yeah, I want someone that I know is going to look after me and do exactly what I need them to do. You know, like if I want to make real progress and I'm genuinely serious about this, he's the person I want to go to. Like that's essentially the big goal, is to be one of the first names that come up in that conversation. And if I can do that, for me, that's becoming one of the most successful coaches.
And then, what's your views on like social media then? You said you're a content creator. You enjoy content creating. It's a very broad, open question. But what are your views on social media?
I'm hit and miss with it. I think there's some amazing things about it, and I think there's some awful things about it. Like, if I'm being fully honest, if I didn't have to do social media for my job, I would be off every social media, without a question. I think it sucks too much of our attention. I think that's a big problem that we have. I also think the unregulation of information is pretty poor on there. Not from like a freedom of speech or anything like that. Like, people can say what they want to say. That's not a problem. But like, you can say the wrong thing. Like, we know factually is the wrong thing, and it won't get flagged up at all.
Or it'll get more views than the right thing.
Yeah.
Factually.
this is the issue that I see in the fitness industry specifically a lot, is like the sexy thing gets attention. It's like, you know, like it really comes down to people want something to blame. Like that's usually where you see it from. It's like most people have seen like no carbs after fucking 8 p.m. or, you know, like I've got to do a keto diet to lose weight. They want to blame something which they're not doing for being the reason they're not in the shape they want to be. So because it's something that they've not done, they're like, oh, that's the reason. And right or wrong, then it gets plastered all over social media. You get some influencer that has no idea what they're talking about, start speaking about it. Their 200,000 followers start speaking about it, and it's just...
And then it's like promoting something that's...
Yeah.
And that's maybe when, what we were on about earlier on, that's when the softness comes out. And then you need somebody to say, or when somebody does say, shut up, that's a bad excuse, or why are you thinking like that, or they challenge them, then it's like, oh, they don't actually know, they've just heard it off social media. It's like Chinese whisper.
Yeah. And then also people get like an inflated sense of confidence because of a following. So they're like, oh, I must know what I'm talking about because I've got X amount of following. Like that's become a credential for authority. Like it's like just because someone's got 500,000 followers doesn't mean they know what they're talking about, which is something which I never thought would be a thing. But it's like people will 1,000%, whether they realize it or not, will follow the fitness advice of someone with more followers over the fitness advice of someone with less followers, even if it's like vastly off the mark. You know, like we're talking about some horrendous. Like they should, like I can imagine you could do social studies on this kind of stuff. They could just tell you something completely fucking wild, like, you know, eat this one thing for the next 30 days, and people go, oh, that must be right because someone with a big following said it. You know, whereas no matter how many accounts you got with small followings, I mean, it's hard because they don't get the reach and they don't speak to those people. But because it's not sexy and because it's not from a big following, people don't believe it. That's the dangerous thing I find about it. Is like I said, that's why it's like it's unregulation of information, but I don't want people to take that as like I think that everyone should be censored on what they say or anything. Like, I still think people should be able to say what they want to say, but like in information that is very much potentially harmful to people, like, you know, some of these like crazy fad diets, like that stuff needs to be regulated to a degree. You know, it's like you can't just chat shit and get away with it and just say whatever you want to say, and because you got a big following, all of a sudden it becomes gospel. That's the issue I see with it. But, you know, also like this is then it comes down to like the education system and all that kind of stuff. Like the education system is pretty poor at informing people on all this kind of stuff. So people then don't know what they should be looking for, you know, like they don't know. Like it's unfortunate because it's not as sexy, like the information, and we're getting better at it. Like some of these bigger influencers are becoming a little bit more switched on, but it's still fairly few and far between, which is a shame. But I think it's kind of starting to move in the right direction. But yeah, that's I think it's great for a lot of things. You can find a lot of motivation. You can find a community where you couldn't usually find it. You know, everyone's got a place to belong on social media, which is amazing. But that lack of like filtering of the shit is messing up a lot of people. I see it every day in personal training. People going, oh, I saw this on TikTok. Like the amount of times, if one of my clients starts with, I saw this on TikTok, I'm just like, right, stop it there. It's probably going to be a load of shit. I'm like, 9 times out of 10, it's usually some random shit that they've just heard. There's a clickbaity opening statement, and they've not understood the video, or the video's just been out of whack. And they'll go, oh yeah, but I saw it on TikTok, so it must be right. For fuck's sake. It's painful.
A little topic that we haven't spoke much on. There is a second part to this. So what sort of man do you envision becoming? And I want this to link more, because we've spoke a lot about PT, bodybuilding, not that sort of man, but in terms of like relationship, family, do you see yourself having a family?
Yeah.
What sort of future do you see?
I get in trouble if Marla watches this back and I say the wrong answer here. Fuck me over. No, yeah, definitely. I definitely see myself with all of those things. I definitely see myself having a future with a family and kids and all that kind of stuff. Being a bodybuilder puts like a little bit more pressure on like the way I would potentially deal with having children. Like, as in, when they're growing up, I'm probably going to be peak bodybuilding, which means I can't fucking run around and do stuff all day. Like, that's a consideration I've kind of started to realize. It's something which I don't know how I'm going to deal with until it becomes a problem. I don't think it will get to the point where it will become a problem, but it's something that started crossing my mind. But there's a lot of other things that I want to do as a person that won't be impacted by that kind of stuff. Like, being a bodybuilder and a coach and stuff allows me to be present in those moments. You know, I can work from home. You know, again, that's like, I very much, and again, I know it's not trying to bring it back to business, but I've done a lot of what I've done in life to set myself up so I can have that freedom and flexibility. Like, I'm lucky that I can do that in what I want to do. But you know, if I didn't bodybuild, and I'd find a way to have that freedom and flexibility and provide all those things. Like, I'm very realistic in, I know there will be a point where I have to provide for my family solely on me. So there's a lot of fucking drive to work and earn that kind of money. There's going to be a lot of time where I potentially need to step back and be a supporting role. So I need to have that freedom and that flexibility to be able to do that. I also feel like a lot of the stuff I do breeds positive characteristics and traits, like things like mental discipline, you know, like learning the right stuff, which I value as important traits in a person. I found a lot of those from bodybuilding. Always been super grateful for. But you know, I want to be someone that can balance all of them. I've always been worried about dipping too far on the side of just like that stuff taking over. I'm unfortunately at a point in my life where that does take a bit of a priority at the moment because it's still taken off. But I want to get into the place where I can have all of those things. Like, balance isn't a real thing. Like, this balance, the word gets thrown around all the time. Like, balance doesn't mean anything. But for me, at that point, it will be able to spend time with family, kids, obviously my partner, and do all those things, as well as still being pretty successful in the areas I can be.
Why does balance not mean a thing?
So I find I've got a personal vendetta against the word balance because it gets chucked around and I think it's thought to mean something that it's not. Balance is a thing, but balance is individual to you, and this is what doesn't get explained to people. Like, people see balance as, I go out and drink on the weekends with my friends, and I have a 9 to 5 job, and I can be social and do some stuff. When people say balance, that's what they think it means. For some people, that might be the case. For me, balance is going out and celebrating and seeing friends a couple of times a year. You know, like, and switching off completely, it doesn't happen as often. People say that's not balance. For me, that's my level of balance.
Like you were coming back to earlier on, everything you look at is more as an individual rather than an overall thing. Somebody's balance could be what you mentioned, but somebody else is not.
Yeah.
And I think, is that what you're trying to say? Like, everyone views balance as this one solid thing, but it's not. It's loads of everyone's individual.
Balance usually gets chucked around in the conversation, especially within the fitness industry, with the way people eat and the way people drink alcohol. That's usually the two things that gets chucked around with, and that's why I really don't like it. Like, I don't drink. I haven't drunk in 4 years. I just don't. You know, and people kind of get the misconception of it. It's like, you either switch off on the weekend, go drink with your friends, and eat and do whatever you want on the weekend, and are on plan with stuff Monday, Friday, and it's like, that's balance. If you're not doing that, you're unhealthy. It's like, you can, I got clients that don't drink for personal reasons. Like, I got clients that don't drink for religious reasons. They're not unbalanced. They just don't want to fucking drink. You know, and that word then gets thrown around. It's like, your balance might be going out every other weekend or once a month. Nobody's balance is right or wrong, and nobody's balance is like the ideal standard. It's like, it's your version of it. That's what I don't like about balance. It's like, it becomes a very quick way for people to put their expectations on other people. Like, the amount of times that I've been told, like, I'm a fucking boring person, or I don't have balance for not going out and drinking, and I'm like, this is fucking mental. I'm like, it's crazy. Like, I'm not against drinking. Like, a lot of my clients drink. I don't ever tell my clients not to drink, and I think it's for like legit health reasons. But like, you're literally putting something that's toxic into your body to make yourself someone that you're not multiple times a week. Like, why does that all of a sudden make you a healthier person, like, mentally? Like, that's what I can't get my head around. It's like I said, I've got absolutely nothing against drinking. Like, if you want to go out and drink, that's fine. Like I don't have an issue with that. But for me, I don't get why that becomes being a healthier, like mentally a healthier person, is doing something that is very much detrimental and takes you away from the mental state you're currently in. I'm like, surely that's everything against healthier. If you really break it down what it does, surely that's like the exact opposite, you know? It's like, yeah, you can have arguments for like fast food being balanced, and it's like a lot of like people will know like the 80-20 rule, like 80% of the food you take in being like from high quality whole food sources, 20% being from the kind of foods you want to eat, like pizza, burgers, that kind of stuff. That makes sense. Like calling that balance, cool, that makes sense. But going out and drinking and doing that kind of stuff where you're deliberately putting harm into your body, like I said, I want to stress, I don't have an issue with it, because I do stuff as a bodybuilder that's harmful to my body, you know, that's fine. But to call that healthier, I don't understand. Yeah, I don't get that. I've never understood that. It's like that's like smoking, like chain smoking, and going, oh yeah, but it's balance.
Because I didn't do it last week.
It's like, how does that? But they'll do it every week.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. They'll do it week on week, and like I find a lot of that kind of stuff comes from people not being truly happy in their day to day. So for a lot of people, when you really dig down, and this is like we said about the chatting to people in detail, a lot of the reason people will drink is down to they're not happy with something in their life and they need to kind of get away from it a little bit. Come from some level of unhappiness or some level of insecurity. When you really dig deep down, it's like usually people they'll have a stressful day at work, they'll go grab a glass of wine. You know, they'll have a bit of a shit weekend and it will be tough, and they'll go have a couple of drinks with the boys. Or they won't be able to unwind in a social setting without the presence of alcohol. That's the other thing. It's an insecurity type thing. It's like how many people do you know that are wildly different people once they've had a drink? You know, all of a sudden they're chatty. All of a sudden they'll go speak to anyone. It's like that. It shouldn't take like being in an altered state of mind to go chat to someone or just be happy for a couple of hours. You know, it's like, for me, that's a red flag. It's like the people that I think should drink are the people that aren't any different when they drink and have happy, fulfilled lives. So, you know, if you're happy on your day-to-day and it doesn't change you that much, go drink. You know, that you're not using it for something. It's like, that's then a crutch, essentially. Yeah. But people won't see it as that because it's such like a socially normalized thing. And like I said, you can drink alcohol responsibly and somewhat safely, but it's looking at the reason you're going to do it. And I'll have these conversations with my clients. Like I'll not call people out, but we'll have those conversations. And a lot of the time people use it because of something they've never thought about. Like I said, they're insecure and they don't feel confident in a social setting. You know, how many times have you been to a bar, single, going out to try chat to girls, and you only start chatting to girls once you've had a couple of drinks? You know, it's not because the alcohol makes any difference, but you're just more confident, you know? Like, but you could be that confident every day. That's the thing people don't realise. If you can do that whilst you're drunk, you can do that every single day. It's like if it takes you having a couple of drinks at night after a bad day of work to make you happy, you know, you can create your own happiness from working on your mind. Shouldn't take alcohol to get you there, you know? Yeah. That's always been my approach to it. Like I said, people take it differently. Like, people tend to think that I'm like bashing it or anything like that. It's like I don't mind. Like I said, a lot of my clients still drink alcohol. I've never once, apart from health, like legit health issues, like liver issues and stuff like that, never once saw a client stop drinking. You know, but I think you have to be mindful of the reason you are doing it.
And I think it takes that maybe difficult conversation or you to challenge them for them to realise it, maybe. Because sometimes people don't.
It's a hard conversation to have with yourself. 100%. People don't like those kind of conversations. Like that level of introspection, most people won't do. Yeah. But it's why most people will continue to go do it week on week, and they'll look back later in their life and go, sometimes like you get some great memories, don't get me wrong, but you get just as good memories without it. I promise you. You know, it's not like something I had a PT tell me once. I won't mention who it is, but I once had a PT tell me that I was boring for not drinking. Like they were like, you're a boring person if you don't drink. I was like, surely you're a pretty boring person if you can only chat to people and be social if you drink. I'm like, if you can't have a conversation with someone without drinking, surely that means you're a pretty boring person.
I think that's a common. I've had that loads just from mates. I think that's quite common from the age when you start drinking, like more younger ages, a bit more immature minded sort of thing. I think that is a go-to. Oh, you're boring for not drinking. You're boring for this. If I can have fun without drinking, surely that's a lot better than
That makes
if
you a more interesting person than needing it.
Exactly. I also saw something the exact same what you just said. Somebody said on social media saying, if you can, instead of drinking for a reason to become happy, he was saying drink when you're gonna be happy already. Like if you're going to the park with your mates and you're just chilling at the park, you're gonna be happy there. So then you can have a little drink. If you're gonna watch the football, you're gonna be happy anyway. Then you can have a drink. But if you're like you said, had a long day at work, let's drink. I've had a bad, or I can't get any girls, let's drink. I can't do this, let's drink. You're kind of you're telling your brain you're drinking every time there's a negative thought in your head, and then it's a positive reaction from the drinking, and then you'll just do it more.
It's very basic. It's like reinforcement psychology. It's like it's the way you train animals. Like it's really bad, but it's the way you train animals to have certain responses to things. You know, it's our brain is very complex but very simple in some things. And you know, like you start to associate having a drink with a bad day. Every time you have a bad day, you're gonna drink. You know, you're probably going to feel worse the next day. That rolls into the rest of your day. You have another bad day, you drink again, and you drink more because you think that's the solution to your bad day. And that's when you start to run into really negative cycles. Like, this is one thing that I don't think a lot of people realize and consider. This is something I only found out a couple of weeks ago, but it changed the way I look at it, definitely, is when they do studies on drinking, like how it affects people, what they consider as chronic drinking, like essentially excessive drinking, is 3 to 4 alcoholic drinks a week. That's chronic drinking in scientific studies. How many of your friends will do double, triple that every week?
Or just on a night out.
Yeah, easily. Like that's what they consider as chronic drinking, like as an issue. Like, if you told someone they were chronically smoking, they'd be like, that's the worst thing in the world. If you told someone they were chronically drinking, if you asked a load of random people, what would you consider the level of chronic drinking to be? They'd be like, maybe 15, 20 drinks, you know, 3 or 4. Yeah, it's crazy. So, yeah, it's definitely a good cycle to get out of. And you use it, like you said, to heighten a good experience, not as a crutch on a negative one.
One big question, or two big questions. So you got all this life experience just at the age of 23. I would just say from when you got those 3 concussions, having that switch mentality, going through everything we've spoken to today up until this point, and you can already see a future, family, bodybuilding, best PT in the world, all of that. What would you say has been some massive factors in your life, or what would have you said to yourself back when you finished rugby to get there quicker, or to get there even better than you have now?
So a big thing is saying yes to opportunities. Like that for me has been huge, and it's something I've only just started realizing I've actually been okay at. But there's definitely more stuff I could have done. It's just being open to doing stuff. You know, like as a videographer, I'd have people approach me. Like I remember back when I was like 19, I used to work with the tattoo studio. It was one of the companies I used to work with as a videographer. They used to get influencers in, and when we'd shoot influencers getting these tattoos, I produced content for it, and that was the work I did for them basically. One of these influencers, who's actually a pretty close friend of mine now, he actually weirdly also switched to bodybuilding, so he competes now, which is quite cool. But he approached me after the shoot and was like, "Look, we're going out to do basically going out to do like a branding shoot out in Turkey." He was like, "It's in a week. Would you like to come?" He was like, "We'll pay for your flights. We'll pay for everything while you're out there." I was like, I think I was 18 at the time. He was like, we'll pay for everything. We're staying in a villa in the middle of Turkey. We're just going to shoot content and go out and chill and enjoy it. And like, I was still getting used to putting myself out there. I was definitely nowhere near as confident as I am now. I was still very much like bridging that gap. A huge part of my brain was screaming at me, "No, that's way out of your comfort zone. Don't do it." Like that like literally flying to a foreign country on your own. I'd never flown on my own before. Like to land in a foreign country where you don't speak the language whatsoever, never been to Turkey before, to then get like a 2-hour taxi to a villa where I didn't really know where it was, to go live with a load of people that I'd met for maybe like, I met one of them for about 3 hours. That was it. Lived with them for like 9 days. Every single part of my brain from before was going, fuck that. That sounds like the worst thing imaginable. I know to most people, they're like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Like, why would you not do that? That huge part of my brain was going, nope, that's so far out of your comfort zone. Don't do it. Thankfully, another part of my brain, which is probably the part of my brain I use a bit more now, was like, you're not going to get this opportunity again. Like, or you won't get this opportunity again if you don't do this. So you gotta go take it. And I did. I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. And literally like 6 days later, I was getting on a plane out to Turkey to go live in a villa with some models that you know from like, they're on Boohoo, ASOS, like you see them all the time, like JD, like one of them was on, what was it? Do you know Ibiza Weekender? Like the TV show. Yeah, it's all right. They're good. He was sound. He's all right. He'll never watch this either. He's a really nice lad. He's Callum. But he was on Ibiza Weekender. Like people that are on like MTV TV shows, like crazy stuff. Like I couldn't imagine knowing and being friends with these people. But I went out there, and that was one of the big moments where I was like, I need to experience more. I was like, and now I'll try and say yes to opportunities. Like that M10 opportunity came up, and again, like it was working with a group of people where I very much didn't feel like I was at that level. Like there was a lot of imposter syndrome. Even now, I still get that. It was like, right, okay, they're at this level. Like for me to get through this interview process, I will be essentially one of the top trainers in the UK. I was like, I'm a 22 I was 22 when I applied. I was like, I'm a 22-year-old. Who do I think I am applying to be in with all these people? But I was like, fuck. I was like, putting an application can't hurt. I got through one step, and then the next step, and then the next step, and it was like, right, okay, I've been chosen to be top 2 out of this. We're 2 of their leading coaches, you know. And it's like, right, okay, I need to keep saying yes to stuff. I just need to keep just opening myself up to opportunities, because you never know where they're going to take you. And now I literally try and say yes to as many things as possible. Sometimes that comes at my own detriment, and I end up being way too busy than I can manage. I've definitely been there way too often. But, you know, you those opportunities sometimes will never come up again. You have to say yes to them. Like that for me is the big thing, is don't be scared to say yes to stuff. You know, it will serve you at some point. Like the videography stuff I now use every day as a coach. You know, I produce my own content. It helps with my business, you know. Like life lessons and life skills are never wasted. No time is ever wasted. I'm a big believer in that. It's like if you spend a couple of years doing something because an opportunity came up and you realize it was the wrong direction, that doesn't mean that it's wasted time. You'll learn things that you'll apply into your next step. So just say yes to as many things as possible.
Anxiety will always hinder some unexpected joyful times. I've suffered with like anxiety in the past, but even when I've been anxious to do something, when somebody's offered something to me, forcing yourself, because everyone can just force themselves to just say yes, yeah, sure, or never shut it down, just go, oh, I'll think about it. I think that's a big one as well. I never say no to anything. I'll just go, oh, I'll think about it, I'll come back later and think about it, because then that still is saying yes to them whilst giving you time to think about
Process
it. Yeah. And just before we finish this now, what is your quote?
The quote I wrote down is I think this, I can't remember where I heard this. I think it was like you might know. I know you do a lot of like jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. Do you know Jocko Willink? So you'll like him.
I'm really bad at names, by the way.
He's like ex-marine kind of stuff. Like you have a look at him. I think you'll like him. Yeah. I think it was him that said it. I might be completely wrong with this, but it was essentially the quote of how you do anything is how you do everything. And that's something I take into everything I do in life. It's like the way we approach and deal with the small things is how we approach the bigger things. You know, it's like we can't expect to hold ourselves to high standards and do things at a top level in the big things that matter to us if we're not taking care of the small things too. When we look at like even stuff like self-confidence, like we know from a psychological level that self-confidence is built by mini wins. You know, saying you're going to go do something and doing it, no matter how big or small it is. That's how we build confidence in ourselves. You know, and on the flip side, if you start slacking off in certain areas, it will slip into other areas of your life. You know, how many times have you like let your bedroom become a little bit messy, or left some washing up on the side and gone, fuck it, I'll just get back to it later, you know. All of a sudden, the bigger things in your life, you start taking with as much kind of intention, you know, those things start to slip. So like that's always been a big thing for me is whatever you do it to 100%. You know, it's like very much everything is done to the best level it can be done. Because, you know, you're never leaving a stone unturned. You know, you're making sure everything, like you're holding yourself to that standard. You hold yourself to that standard on those small things, and the standard goes on to the bigger things. Like the perfectionism of it can hold you back sometimes. As long as you learn how to deal with it properly, it's okay. But like I'll never, as a brand for my coaching, put out a piece of content that's half-assed. I'll never send a half-assed check-in over to a client. You know, like the professional standards, like even stuff like I'm like bar maybe 1 or 2 sessions I've ever done, I'm not late to sessions. You know, I'm there waiting for a client, and unless we're back to back, like I'm there waiting for the next session. You know, like how you do everything is how you do everything. So the standards you set are the standards you set across the board. Like we don't have a switch where it's like I do this at this level and this at this level. It's like we do everything at A level. So if you want the most success you could ever dream of in your life, that's going to require the highest standards. That doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out. And if we know that our standards are across the board, we got to start sweating the small stuff. The little things matter. The way we take care of ourselves, the way we take care of the small interactions. Like, how many times do you have a conversation with someone and you're like, it's fine, I'll never meet them again. It doesn't matter. Like, the amount of times they've come back and become a client 6 months later because of a conversation we've had, where it would have been so easy to just brush them off and dismiss it and go, nah, it's fine. Like, that becomes such a big thing. We don't know what's going to come of anything. So treat everything with the utmost importance. Set those standards high. And, you know, everything in your life will start to rise to those standards.
George Hanks, thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure, my man.
I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Oh, mate, it was amazing. I appreciate you asking me, man.
And to link with that, your quote as well, I didn't want to interrupt you, but there was Michael McConaughey, whatever his name is. Yeah. He said that his dad, before he died, he said his dad would always say never half-ass it. No matter if it's big, small, no matter if you think it's big or small, or if it is big or small, like you said, you have a conversation with somebody, if you just turn them down or you walk off, you never know who that person could have been or could be to you in the future. Even if there's somebody, like you said, that you might never see again. But, yeah, he was like, it's also living with the regret. If you never half-ass anything and you always put everything...
You're always going to be comfortable with the outcome.
And I think you said earlier on something like that. Like, you'll never regret doing your best of your ability with what you do. Because...
It's like with bodybuilding, with prep. It's like, you know, you put everything into it, and wherever the placing is, you're happy with it, you know, because you've given everything you can.
Whereas if you half-assed one morning where you didn't put the bed together...
That's going to be in your fucking head.
Exactly.
All day.
Never half-assing anything will always give you the certainty and the closure. Yeah. Thank you for watching.